In football today, but also across many different generations, it's usually often rare to say that any one single player at any one position is just much clearly better than everyone else. Most of the time, it's a debate, with a handful of names thrown into the mix, each with their own strengths and weaknesses. But every once in a while, someone comes along that ends that discussion entirely. Someone who puts a clear gap between the best and the second best, making it feel not even close. And right now, that player exists at the left back position. And his name is Nuno Mendes. Yeah, that's actually how you correctly say it in Portuguese. But I know most of the world prefers to call him Nuno Mendes. At just 23 years old, Mendes has quietly and quickly built a case as the most complete fullback in world football. Because at the same position, nobody matches his blend of intelligence, timing, aggression, and further potential. And on the attack, his control, balance, and acceleration turns him into an instant threat. He covers ground at incredible speeds and efficiency, reads the ball and the flow of the game like a veteran, and makes one of football's most chaotic and tiring positions look effortless. But defenders, as they often do, get overlooked. And aside from big tournaments when he gets stops on the opposition's best players, really almost nobody talks about him. But historically, that's just the overall sad truth of being a defender. It's a position where rarely anyone talks about the rankings, hardly any social media hype over the numbers, and highlights that pale in popularity compared to their attacking counterparts. And for Nuno Mendes, all the same can be said. His overall game, as brilliant as it is, largely operates in silence. He's a player that's been so consistently ahead of everyone else in his position that paradoxically, people have stopped noticing. Because when you make one of the hardest jobs on the pitch look routine, it's easy for everyone to look on without realizing what they're watching. So I'm making this video to show my appreciation for the fullback, showing the stats and numbers that no one seems to care about, and perhaps proving along the way just why Nuno Mendes is so much better than everyone else at his position. Because Mendes grew up in Sintra, Portugal, and he never really had the luxury of early development football academies. But maybe it was the rough grass, carrying the football with him every day going home from school, and watching football matches on TV as often as he can, not for entertainment, but for studying the game, that would really help him develop quickly. Because it was in fact his own school teacher who would invite him to play for local club Despertar. And it was there where his early youth coaches would say, Mendes wasn't loud, but he saw everything. You could tell he was processing the game like it was math. And that's why Portuguese giant Sporting would sign Mendes at the age of 10. And by the age of 18, he wasn't just another academy prospect. In 2020, when he made his senior debut, Sporting had not won a league title in 19 years. But within a year of Mendes joining the first team, that drought ended. Even though he was still a teenager, Mendes executed with patience and read the game like a veteran. From the consistent positioning, disciplined angles, and the kind of low-level error decision-making usually taught to defenders in their late 20s. I know this phrase gets thrown around a lot, but Mendes really did play beyond his years. And these were the kind of traits that put Mendes straight into Europe's scouting horizon. And PSG would be the first ones to take a bite. Initially, he would move to Paris in the 2021-22 season. However, he was still relatively a no-named youngster, because if you remember, the highlight of that season for PSG was the arrival of Lionel Messi. But what was interesting was that although their Messi project didn't quite go through as well as they hoped, they had a lot of faith in the teenage Nuno Mendes. Because while the rest of the world didn't want to pay 40 million euros for a teenage left back, PSG saw something in Mendes. As of all the defenders in the club, the teenager would have the fourth highest appearances at 37 total matches. The thing about PSG though is that it's always been a strange environment for defenders. The club's entire ecosystem had always revolved around the final third, with artistry, finishing, and goal scoring that belonged on billboards. Yet somehow the young Nuno Mendes found himself becoming irreplaceable for the club, so much so that they would decide to make his loan permanent. And for him, they were willing to drop a bag. Because while PSG highlights were filled with clips of Kylian Mbappe, on the other side, Nuno Mendes was slowly creating magic. The way that he waits the exact moment to close the gap between him and an attacking player, the way that he steers wingers away from their stronger foot, the subtle way that he waits before making a tackle, then the solid ball control, touch, and carrying ability, showing that he has both aspects of the game under control. Because whenever PSG lost the ball, Mendes never panicked. He simply shifted from an attacking outlet to a defensive stabilizer, making his way to the most optimal position, almost like he already saw the play before it happened. And whenever the team presses, he never overcommits. He simply slides into angles that matter, preventing the plays before the opposition can really make a strong attack. And the secret behind him isn't just that natural ability. Mendes trains with a kind of obsessive precision that you can almost feel in the way he moves. Every recovery run, every feint, every body adjustment, up to the way that he can carry the ball on the counterattack, has been drilled into muscle memory. It's the kind of quiet mastery that comes from the hours of work you'll never see. Because as natural of a talent or as high of a ball IQ as you have for the game, it'll never translate into real ability without putting in the work. That's why even now, Nuno Mendes says, I keep working every day, training and improving as much as I can. And what better way to start training and improving your skill anytime and anywhere than with the help of today's sponsor, FPro. FPro has an all-in-one training ecosystem that makes it possible to improve your game anytime and anywhere. FPro turns your living room, garage, and even your backyard into your own personal academy. Firstly is FPro's Ball Mastering Mat, a foldable mat with numbered zones that helps players master control, footwork, and coordination. And with FPro, all you have to simply do is pay a monthly subscription. And the FPro app gives you access to over 200 drills, daily challenges, and training videos that they're constantly updating and improving. All designed by elite coaches and former professionals. Plus, the app even lets you track your progress through their leaderboards, making training more fun, interactive, and competitive. So whether you're just starting out or chasing the next level, FPro helps you train harder, smarter, and gives you structured development you can actually see and track anytime and anywhere. Because after all, as Mendes himself says, start every session with focus and purpose and always train at full intensity with no shortcuts if you want to keep improving and not get left behind. So if you want to start training like a pro at home and improve your touch, dribbling, and overall game, click the link in the description and go to fpro.com/Raymar and use my promo code Raymar for 20% off your FPro order and start training like a pro today. Thanks to FPro for sponsoring this video. But anyways, if you really want to understand Nuno Mendes' game, don't just simply watch the highlights. Slow the game down a bit and take a deeper look, because the magic behind Nuno Mendes isn't in the flashy moments. It's about his control over things that most fans ignore or simply don't notice. Sure, every competent modern fullback can run, tackle, and whip across. However, Mendes does something far more rare. He basically controls the rhythm of the match from the left flank. Going more in depth on his defensive ability, Mendes is very clever. Whenever he's one-on-one, he doesn't dive or bite in too early. Usually what he'll do is show attackers a little bit of space, but eventually it's just a bait. The second that they commit, that's when he tries to shut it down completely. Sure, no defender is successful all the time, but that's why Nuno Mendes' tackle success rate in Ligue 1 has stayed above 60% for 2 straight seasons. But funnily enough, he doesn't even attempt that many tackles as most fullbacks do. But in transition, Mendes becomes even more impressive and separates himself further from other left backs. While many fullbacks win the ball and immediately look to clear it or go long, Mendes on the other hand doesn't. Like we talked about earlier, he's very composed. After regaining possession, he keeps his head, takes one touch to settle, then suddenly shifts from defense into attack with balance. Mendes averages just over 5 progressive carries per 90 minutes, within the top 10 percentile among fullbacks in Europe. And while that is already great, what sets him apart from that is how he carries it. Mendes' movement, positioning, and passing is incredibly productive, because what sets him even further apart from your usual ball-carrying fullbacks is his brilliant decision-making. Mendes doesn't just spam crosses for show. He makes sure he makes the right plays. Sometimes he'll underlap instead of overlapping, allowing his wingers to get more space. And at other times, he'll pause, drag the marker inside, and free up a teammate. Mendes averages around 1.6 key passes per game, with one of the lowest turnover rates in PSG. That is efficiency. Watching Mendes on the left, it seems like everything he does is just calculated. The timing of his sprints, the weight of his passes, and even when not to go. And this technical ability, ball IQ, spatial intelligence, and composure beyond his years, paired with his athletic physicality, truly sets him apart from everyone else. Sure, you do have some fullbacks in the limelight, like Trent, who honestly is more of an attacking fullback, or even his teammate Hakimi, who does a little bit of everything. But Mendes, for me, is a lot more different. He can do what Trent and Hakimi can, only he's just a much smarter and better defender. This guy can sprint the full length of the pitch in the recovery run, win aerial duels against taller opponents, and can be reliably trusted to mark the opposition's best player. You rarely see him caught out, you rarely see him scrambling, and overall, he just makes defending look simple. And perhaps that's why most people don't notice him. It's kind of like editing. When it's done perfectly, you don't realize how great it was. But when there's clear problems, it's much more noticeable. But week after week, Mendes consistently makes great defensive plays. Yet most people don't bat an eye because there's nothing to replay. No drama, not getting split, or not getting embarrassed. Just simple, clean, and brilliant defending. That's kind of the curse of being that good defensively. Your success just looks boring. For forwards, when they score, it's headlines. But defenders, on the other hand, when they do their job well, or when Mendes shuts down the left flank, it's just another night. Almost like it's what you expected anyways without realizing you did. A lot of fullbacks these days try to do too much and want to be everywhere, pressing, overlapping, and flying up the pitch. But But the thing is, not only are they not that great at doing all of that, they don't have the physicality or the stamina to keep up with all that work rate. But while that positioning and those roles might be very tiring for Mendes, based on his positioning and movement, he's somehow found a way to optimize himself to be productive for the entire 90 minutes or more. When PSG builds from the back, notice where Mendes is standing. Sometimes he's glued to the touchline, and sometimes he's tucked in just enough to form a back three. His positioning lets him easily read passes early, allowing him to conserve energy until he really needs to go and intercept, where he can then instantly start the counterattack. On the defensive end for PSG, he's basically both a safety net and a launch pad at the same time. Even his running technique matters, with short, sharp acceleration that hits top speed quickly, allowing him to be great at pressing, recovering, and changing directions on a dime. He has great lateral movement that allows him to keep up with the best dribblers or fastest wingers. And again, he saves his energy. No unwarranted, useless sprints, and not getting caught in bad positions that forces him to use more energy. Because for many of you who've played football before, you know just how tiring it is, forcing yourself to sprint back and get into a good position just because you ended up ball watching or finding yourself in a bad spot. So despite just how brilliant of a defender he is and how important he is for both PSG and for Portugal, why don't many people acknowledge or appreciate him more? Well, it also has to do with the fact that he's a defender, and unfortunately for defenders and goalkeepers as well, lowlights and mistakes are just much more noticed than if they do a good job. I mean, if you look a few years back, you'll notice defenders like Maguire who were getting memed throughout the world just because they were playing incredibly bad defense, while at the same time other world-class defenders like Van Dijk were getting ignored. Basically, Nuno Mendes is just too reliable to trend. He's not a dramatic player or someone in the public's eye. He doesn't shout or dive into wild challenges that gets him hated like Vinny Jr. does sometimes. He just does his job quietly and effectively. At PSG, that problem just becomes even worse. Because just think back to PSG's Champions League winning season. Most of the praise went to Dembele and Vitinha. And don't get me wrong, they definitely deserved some praise. But even guys like Desiree Doué got more highlight than Mendes or Hakimi, who I would say were definitely more important throughout that whole Champions League run than Doué was. And don't get me wrong, even though I do think Doué is very promising and has a lot of potential. And even stats can't compare what he does or even some things that defenders just have to do. Sure, you can measure tackles or assists, but you'll rarely see pundits talk about defenders being at the right place, having good off-ball movement, or even other basic metrics like ball carries per 90 or interceptions per 90. So people don't talk about him often, not because he isn't world class, but basically because he makes defending look simple and easy, and defenders just don't get as much love, as sad as it is. Nuno Mendes is only 23. He's not even close to reaching his physical prime. While though it's true that most fullbacks decline as they lose pace and age, not only is Mendes still incredibly young, his overall game doesn't even rely or is built on his pace alone. It's his timing, composure, awareness, control, and positioning. And these kinds of qualities will always age like fine wine. If he keeps improving like this, he's not just redefining the left back position, he'll be redefining what defensive greatness looks like. Because I hope at least sooner or later, football fans will start appreciating players not just for what they create, but also for what they prevent. Because I feel like football fans and pundits in the 90s and early 2000s just appreciated defenders a lot more than fans of today. And the sad thing is that I don't see a defender winning the Ballon d'Or anytime soon, even if they deserved it. Defenders really need to get a little bit more appreciation. And if an attacking player can get all the limelight and the awards, at the very least defenders or defensive players need to get their very own exclusive award. Because if they don't, honestly, people will just keep overlooking defenders and guys like Nuno Mendes as a whole. Because footballing greatness doesn't just come with fireworks, it comes with control and safety as well. And one day, hopefully, when analysts and fans look back and slow down the footage, they'll realize what we're seeing right now wasn't just underrated, it was ahead of everyone else. And Nuno Mendes, without a doubt, is easily the best left back in the world.